Question number 1 is from Joshua. Joshua writes in and says, what are some of the most baffling draft picks you can remember? Specifically picks that made no sense to you when they happened and predictably didn't work out. So not just using hindsight. There's a great story. In 2005, the Lions drafted wide receiver Mike Williams, 10th overall at USC. The team president, the guy who made the pick, was Matt Millen. He had control of the Lions organization. And the Lions head coach was Steve Mariucci. Steve Mariucci is a guy he's a broadcaster now. He's great on TV. He knows his football. I really enjoy Steve Mariucci. And in 2003, by the way, the Lions drafted wide receiver Charles Rogers out of Michigan State, number 2 overall. So that's a first-round pick in 2003. That's wide receiver. In 2004, the Lions drafted another wide receiver in the first round, this time with the 7th overall pick, Roy Williams. This time with the 7th overall pick, Roy Williams out of Texas. And then in 2005, leading up to the draft, Steve Mariucci, the head coach of the Detroit Lions, came out and said, we do not need another wide receiver. We do not need to draft Mike Williams. He was trying to send a message to Matt Millen, the guy who had all the power. Hey, do not draft Mike Williams. We don't need him. So the coach came out and said, do not draft this guy. We don't need him. What did the team president do? The guy in control do? Did he listen? Nah. Stubborn Matt Millen said, I'm going to draft him anyway. So in 2005, number 10 overall, the Lions drafted wide receiver Mike Williams out of USC. He was a bust. He played 5 years, took a little break in between, was on 4 total teams in his career, caught a total of, get this, in 5 seasons, 5 touchdown catches in the NFL. That's the number 10 overall pick. That's a massive bust. And here's the real stinger, the most painful part of the story. Look, they didn't need a receiver. They drafted 2 in a row in the first round. It was a bad pick that the coach didn't want. Here's the worst part, though. The Lions passed on a pass rusher, DeMarcus Ware, who the Cowboys, with the very next pick, 11th overall, the Cowboys drafted DeMarcus Ware. And he was a 9-time Pro Bowler. He has 138.5 career sacks. He's a 4-time All-Pro. And he's eligible for the Hall of Fame in 2022. So the Lions passed on DeMarcus Ware to draft a receiver they didn't need, who the coach didn't want, who was an obvious bust. And they passed on a potential Hall of Famer. Depends on who you talk to. People argue back and forth. But passing on DeMarcus Ware for the 3rd wide receiver in 3 years in the first round, drafting a guy who is a massive bust, that is one of the worst draft picks I've ever seen in my life. And of course, it was the Detroit Lions who did that. So that's a story I think a lot of people don't know. That is a horrendous draft pick. One of the worst in NFL history.